What's up, and welcome to 5280 Film Room.
We're a Colorado sports podcast by fans for fans.
Please subscribe, rate, and review, and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
You can also email us your input, questions, and ideas at 5280filmroom@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening. What's up, Colorado sports fans? Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Gideon.
I'm Miles.
And I'm Jordan.
And we're going to do a super brief update on the Broncos and the Rockies. The Broncos have hired some coaches. Some good Rockies players are now Yankees, and that sucks. So, how are the Nuggets doing, gentlemen?
Well, we attended the Nuggets-Warriors game on Tuesday.
Don't forget about the Sunday game we all attended.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Yes, we
went
watched
3 and...
the Blazers.
No, 2-1 this week thus far. Since our last
podcast.
Yeah.
Lost to the Suns on Saturday night, which was like, meh. Whatever.
A weird loss.
It was like let's take a break kind of game. And then we showed out against the Blazers, won by 3.
That
Came
was
down
a
to the
great
wire.
game to be at in person.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch.
Jokic was on fire.
It was cool to hear some MVP chants and stuff in
Yeah.
person. Mm-hmm. But I was so hyped going into the Warriors game. I thought the Nuggets were going to handle them. And from tip-off, you could tell that the Warriors were just going to control us all game.
Well, they were on a mission to just really solidify them as the team in the West.
Yes. When it was a statement game for both teams, for sure. But the Warriors have been the top of the West for the last God knows how long. Seems like forever now.
4 or 5 years.
But yeah. And so for them, it was like, we are putting down the hammer. And they put down like 30 hammers.
I really do view it as a compliment, though, that the Warriors showed up at our house really mad. They showed up with something to prove, and the fact that they felt that way is in itself a testament to how the Nuggets are playing this season.
Yeah, they wanted to prove a point, and they definitely did.
Yes.
They wanted to show everybody that they're still the king of the West. And they are.
After that game, yeah. I mean, 51-point first quarter.
For now.
Insanity.
For now,
I mean, the Nuggets still played well. It's just you can't compete when another team's dropping over 50% from the three-point line and getting all the calls going their way.
Well, I think the first quarter alone, they shot 70+%.
Yes.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Is that a defensive breakdown, or is that just the Warriors?
That's just them
doing
making
their
shots.
thing?
The Warriors are that good. And I mean, they're not going to do that. If it comes down to like a best of 7 game in the playoffs against the Warriors, they're not going to be able to maintain that every single game.
I'd say they could do maybe 2 games like that.
If it does
But definitely not back-to-back, though.
Definitely not back-to-back, yeah. And that would definitely, with the playoff atmosphere, that would definitely have to be at Oracle.
Yes, for sure.
If we do end up getting to see a Warriors-Nuggets 7-game series, what do you think that looks like?
Game 7?
Really?
Well,
Game 6 or Game 7 for sure.
Yeah.
Because right now it looks like that would be in the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
Yeah, if the Nuggets can maintain their standing, then the only way we would match up against them in the playoffs would be in the conference finals. The Nuggets could, even if they drop down to like 4 or 5 seed, we still wouldn't see the Warriors until maybe the second round of the playoffs.
So help me as a basketball novice. Like, what do the playoffs look like in the NBA? How is that structured?
Is the first round 5 games? Or is it 7? Everything's 7 games.
I think it's all 7.
Everything should be 7. Okay.
Yeah, because it's 8 teams per conference, right?
Yeah. 1 seed matches, just like basic tournament. 1 to 8, 2 to 7.
So on and so
6,
forth.
4 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then
bracket style, so it's not like football.
Highest seeded team.
It's like beer pong.
Gets home court advantage. But then it does get a little weird towards the conference finals, because I think at the start of the playoffs, it goes, like for the home team, you play 2 games at home, 2 games away, and then you're 1 at home, 1 away, 1 at home.
Okay.
But then when it goes to the conference finals, I believe it's...
So like 2-3-2?
Yeah, it's 2-3-2
Okay.
in the conference finals. Yeah, that sounds right. So that got shook up a couple years ago, and it's like whatever. I'm a big fan of the 2-2-1-1-1.
I feel like that sounds more interesting.
The thing with the players union is they didn't want so much traveling,
Which is completely
in those
fair.
high caliber games.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like obviously we're not on the east side of the map, but even, Warriors Nuggets, if it went 1-1-1.
Actually, since 2013, it's been switched over from the
Everything?
2-3-2 to a 2-2-1-1-1.
Oh, okay.
So that's just the way it is across the entire
So it's
playoffs.
no longer 2-3-2.
Yeah, it's every round's best of 7, 2-2-1-1-1.
Okay. So
That's
I had
a
it
lot
backwards.
of
I had
travel.
it backwards.
Yeah, but it wasn't too long ago. I mean, still 6 years, but that the 2-3-2 was still a part of it.
Okay.
I do like the 2-1-1-1.
Yeah,
way
'cause
more.
I
It's
mean,
like-
from a fan perspective,
Yeah.
that's so much more interesting.
You're at home, then you're at away.
As a player,
like-
that sounds exhausting.
Yeah, because like if it's Golden State and Boston, let's say in
Ugh.
in the finals,
like,
yeah. That's
Yeah.
like
tough.
you're just traveling back and
sure.
forth.
Cross country.
And usually you're only given like maybe a day or 2 days of rest
right.
between games, and you have to have a travel day. So it's like you get a travel day plus 1 day break, which you're probably practicing
Which isn't
anyways.
really a break, it's
Yeah.
a refocus.
Yeah, so you're not even worried about jet lag at that point. Like,
I'd almost
I wouldn't be
want-
surprised if some of these dudes are like taking Adderall and stuff just to like.
Right.
Alternating Adderall and Ambien, just depending on what needs to
Yeah.
happen for the
Yeah.
next 8 hours of their lives.
Sounds about right. So I got a question for you, Gideon and Miles. So what would you consider a successful season for the Nuggets? Like based on what you know about the Nuggets so far this year.
Like up to this point, I'd say Western Conference Finals minimum.
Minimum.
That's hefty.
See, and I think there's only 2 teams that we can face in the playoffs that will give us fits if they're on fire, and that's the Warriors and the Rockets.
What about the Thunder?
No, the Thunder.
okay.
I like Charles Barkley's statement today. They're like the pretty girl, but she's really dumb. they are
Like that'll
disguising
get you
good
pretty
team.
far, but it won't get you like all the way to a fully successful life.
It won't put a ring on it. That's for
right.
sure.
Right. It'll get you a lot of like nice meals, maybe a couple purses, but
No ring.
not the bling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say definitely top 4 in the West.
I'd
mean,
like to see him get out of the first round.
For
at
me,
least.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. We
Yeah.
literally missed the playoffs by 1 game against the Timberwolves
Down to
last year.
seconds.
Overtime.
So
Yeah.
I mean, barring a major injury to one of the starters.
We've
I-
overcome
Western
a lot of those
Conference.
already this season.
But because
Yeah.
like under George Karl's coaching, we had a lot of 1 and outs on the first round. So it'd be nice to see a Mike Malone led team. First time we make it to the playoffs with him as our coach, to make it out of the first round. And because our team is so young, I believe it's totally attainable. But I would like to keep things expectations tempered
Grounded
a
a
little
little
bit.
bit.
Yeah, because like
What are you thinking, like 55
it's
wins?
realistic. It's definitely realistic for us to get 50 plus. I think at the beginning of the year, people were expecting us to win like 47 or 48.
Right
And
around
now,
where we are
now
last
it's
year.
like if we don't win 52 games, something went wrong. We already had a bunch of injuries and we're still winning. But as long as we make it, if we lose in the second round, like, will I be disappointed as a fan? Yes. But to kind of put things in perspective, we've got the second youngest team in the league.
they're babies.
Our entire core is retained over the next 2 or 3 years. And the only guy that will lose next year possibly that would affect defensive side of the ball is Paul Millsap. But Miles Plumlee's been playing really well.
Mason,
oh man.
That's Miles.
They're all the
Next to
same.
you.
No, but there's Miles, Mason, and Marshall Plumlee. All
Oh,
and
basketball
and
players.
Madeline.
Madeline's a volleyball
Yeah.
player.
Yeah.
Can't forget Madeline.
The Plumlee family is
Super tall.
crazy athletic. Yeah, super tall. They all look the same too. Mason Plumlee.
How would you? Oh, sorry.
But yeah, Trey Lyles, once he gets healthy, he can take over Millsap's role. But I do think it's possible for the Nuggets to make it to the Western Conference Finals, but I wouldn't be entirely upset if we got knocked out in the second round. First round, that means our youth is definitely an issue because they don't have the experience to make a deep run. Mm-hmm. But I view this year as an experience year. All these young players need to get playoff experience, whether they make it deep or not, so that the next 2 or 3 years moving forward, we will be contenders and finally get the recognition we deserve from ESPN, NBA TV, etc.
How would you guys react to a lot of fans who were calling for Malone to get fired after that loss to the Warriors?
I call those guys the bandwagon fans.
Yep.
Is that... That was my first thought. Now, I could absolutely be accused of that, being a bandwagon fan. I just kind of got lucky with my timing. We started doing this podcast. I've always loved a lot of Colorado sports. Yeah. But this is the first season I've truly paid attention. And I was just, like, completely floored by the number of fans, especially on social media, just completely losing their minds and demanding Malone was fired after one game.
It wasn't a coaching loss. Like, who is he going to put in to, like, counteract Steph Curry, KD, and Klay Thompson all having 30-point games? Like,
so does that just come down to fans' like complete lack of education about what to look for in a game to determine where fault lies?
A social media overreaction.
At the same
time, social media.
Yeah, at the same time, you also got to look at our track record over the first half of the season, where we are top 10 in defensive efficiency, where that was not the case the last 2-3 years.
That's a game changer.
That really comes down to coaching and getting the team to buy in. Yeah. Especially in a zone scheme that Malone implements.
Because how long has he been the head coach?
This is his third year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he got extended after last season for another 2 or 3.
Nice.
So, or it might have been 4.
Something like that, yeah.
Off the top of my head. But Malone's going to be our coach for the next couple of years. And our players have bought into his system, and they're doing well. The only criticism I would have is against these high-powered three-point shooting teams, Malone needs to move away from our zone defense and probably switch to man-to-man, because the Warriors were setting some hard, vicious screens, and our guys just weren't getting around the screens to stay defensive. And the whole point about zone defense is it forces the three-point play. It makes the other team move the ball to the open player, because there's going to be situations where you're constantly double teaming and that leaves someone open on the wing or up at the point, and it forces them to take a 3-point shot. But against the Rockets and the Warriors, who are like the 3-point most shooting team in NBA ever,
right?
All the time.
All these players are going to make those shots. And by playing man-to-man, I think it makes handling the screens a little bit easier, because all you have to do is call for a switch, and then you're forcing the small ball. And let's say, DeMarcus Cousins sets a screen on Jamal Murray. Instead of worrying about the zone closing in on Steph Curry handling the ball, Jamal Murray can just call for help, and someone's already open and on top of Steph Curry, rather than in their zone 3 or 4 feet away and closing in from afar, allowing them to take those open 3-point shots. Because with the small ball, man-to-man, it forces the other offense to do more give-and-goes, pick-and-rolls, and put it in the paint. And I think that was the difference with the Warriors game, is typically we control the paint. We control second chance points, and
the offensive glass.
The Warriors just made everything. There were no offensive. Well, for us, we want offensive rebounds, second chance points, but they weren't giving us a chance for even defensive rebounds. And it wasn't even a paint game like the big men versus the big men.
It was a shooting game.
It was just a shooting game.
Is it difficult for a team
like
to
darts.
transition just game to game depending on matchup from zone to man to man?
I don't think so. Like once you're at that level of
You can just kind of turn it on, whatever.
yeah,
the
because
focus
it's
needs
just
to
like
be.
with zone, it's like you have 2 men up top, 3 guys down low, and everyone stays in their
in
zone.
their zone. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what player
Covers whoever
is,
comes into
is
their
there.
area.
Just cover your area. And sometimes, if only one player is in between 2 zones, those 2 zone players hone in on the one player. So that creates open spaces on the outside of the court. When you're man to man, you are like a cornerback
Right.
in the NFL. You're on his hip, and you follow him everywhere you go. It definitely is a lot more tiring.
I was gonna say it's got to take
Because
a
you're
lot
running
more
back
energy.
and forth. Like Steph Curry loves cutting underneath the basket, and that's also dangerous for some players because you can run into some screens and you're running full speed, getting blindsided by
Yep.
like a 6'9", 6'10" dude, and all of a sudden like you're getting dropped on the floor. So like anyone that says the NBA is not a contact sport, basketball isn't a contact sport, hasn't run into a 250-pound man running full speed.
Yeah. Doesn't sound fun.
It's not.
No.
So tomorrow at home, they play the Cavs. How do you guys foresee that matchup going?
I'd say pretty similar to
The Bulls game last
the
night.
Bulls game last night.
Should be a
Cavs
fun
are
one.
on tank road. They want
Yeah.
They don't have
top
LeBron
spot.
anymore. So
No.
like,
Yeah.
we
even
give
J.R.
up. We
Smith
give
was
up.
like, I don't want to play for you guys. Like, trade me or I'm sitting like all year. And yeah, the Cavs are just not good. They've got some decent players like Kevin Love and
and that's it.
Larry Nance Jr. isn't bad, but I think he's a free agent after the end of this year. So the Cavs are in straight rebuild mode. So yeah, tomorrow night.
Do they still have Korver?
Uh,
Or is he...
I think they might still have Korver. I had a feeling he got traded.
Wouldn't surprise me given their quote-unquote fire sale type
Yeah, but
season.
yeah, it's at home at the Pepsi
Oh, he's on the
Center.
Jazz. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
We're going to that game tomorrow
So it's like
with a couple friends.
it'll be fun as a fan
Good.
because it's like the Nuggets are gonna play well. They're gonna put
It
up.
should
big
hopefully
points.
be an easy game.
It's definitely gonna be an easy game.
But I hate.
What's
I don't
really
think
nice-
it'll be
that
like the
always makes
Suns.
me nervous.
Well, what's really nice is the fact
that it will not be
That-
a game.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third game all season that we've had our starting 5 from opening day on the floor together.
Tomorrow will be.
Yeah.
That's
third
Third full
exciting.
game. Because, second game, Will Barton got injured.
Right.
He's been out,
So
and he just
starting
got back.
5 tomorrow will be.
That'll be Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Will Barton, Paul Millsap, and Jokic.
Nice.
But, barring injuries, third full game.
Well, and technically Barton's still day to day, and I would even
Yeah,
consider Gary
working back.
Harris day to day with a hamstring. But it'll definitely be nice to see our true starting 5 back on the floor together.
Yeah, start working back together, get our rhythm back, and
And it's against
Stay healthy.
a team that's it's an easy game for them to ease back in and get some good minutes, like get condition, make sure they can run the floor for a full 28 to 30 minutes. That would be ideal. But if we're blowing out the Cavs by 25 or 30 points going into the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
I would not be surprised to see some more. Was it Thomas Welsh?
Thomas Welsh, and maybe some Goodwin.
Yeah, like our extra young players.
And that'd be fun
Yeah.
to get to see as well, live as
It's
a fan.
not pretty basketball.
I know, but I still think it's interesting
Yeah.
to get to see
The
a
young
glimpse
talent.
of what potentially the future
the Nuggets'
holds.
future. Yeah, but
If
I
they
mean,
have
I
enough
definitely
of a
see
lead.
Beasley going 30 minutes if they sit the starters in the fourth quarter. But if it's
hopefully we're at that point
hopefully,
where they can't sit the starters. It's like you mentioned the Suns last week.
Yeah, we definitely
That
should have.
should have been an easy win.
Yes.
that ended up being
Yeah.
pretty brutal.
But it was, DeAndre Ayton had a good game, and Kelly Oubre recently got traded from the Wizards to the Suns.
Yeah, he
and
went
with
off.
Devin Booker out, that was Oubre's first chance as a pro to really show his stuff, and it was against a good team, the Nuggets. And so I think that gave Oubre a little bit of a confidence boost, even if he doesn't plan on staying in Phoenix for very long. He definitely showed people that, hey, I can take over a game if I'm given that opportunity. And he absolutely did that. And there's some great shots that he made. And, props to the Suns for not letting us come into their house and just run through them.
Right.
Even for a team that's, I think, 11 wins, maybe 12.
Yeah.
They were like, no, we're going to play you guys hard. And they're not like the Cavs. The Cavs are definitely in, we're trying to lose as many games as we possibly can.
Cavs are still the only team without double-digit wins this season.
Ugh.
They only have
And the
9.
Bulls are terrible too. So
Bulls
it's
have one more win. They have 10.
Okay.
the Bulls and the Cavs are basically the same team.
Bulls have lost 9 in a row. So
Okay.
there's that.
The Bulls hadn't won in Denver since 2006.
What?
Still haven't won.
been a
in
minute.
Denver.
That's crazy.
It's an Eastern Conference team, so each year we would probably only play them once at home.
Yeah.
So
Maybe twice.
yeah, it
But
makes
still,
sense.
I mean, they were a playoff team with Derrick Rose for a while.
Like 10 years ago.
Yeah, right. It's like you'd think that they could beat the Nuggets in Denver. Like, how often do you play interconference games, in the other team's city? Is it like the NFL where it's every 4 years or 8 years in the NFL?
It might be divisional based, similar to the NFL, but
I'm pretty sure you play.
because there's 82 games, you're bound to play every team each year. But I think there's definitely teams where it's you might only play them once in a season, and I'm not sure what the structure is on who gets
Okay.
home court or not.
So it might be
each year.
every other year you play
Maybe.
a home game.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
The NBA schedule gets shuffled each year based on each team's finish. And I also know that they give the Nuggets a slightly harder schedule because we play so many games at altitude, and it's hard for players to come into Denver and
So we see
run.
more of a mix.
So yeah,
Of the entire league.
even when the Nuggets were bad, we still had technically, quote unquote, a harder schedule than other poor teams because of our home court advantage. There's science behind it that running that long at altitude, it makes you more tired. So there's a lot more variables that go into
Yeah.
the NBA scheduling.
Well, the Nuggets historically have always tried to be a fast-paced team because they're at altitude.
Yeah.
So it's let's just outrun the other team. That way they're tired by the fourth quarter.
And when you're traveling, you have more oxygen capacity
Right.
when you're outside of
Your
the mile.
body's
So that's
"Hurrah!"
the other side of us having a harder schedule is it's not just because we play at Mile High, but because we also train
Our
at
players
Mile
are
High.
conditioned.
Our players are better conditioned.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Olympians and marathon runners come
Yeah, got
to
that huge Olympic
there's
training
there's
center in
Mexico
the
City,
Springs.
Albuquerque, and Colorado Springs. Those are the top training cities in the world.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But
Working at altitude is, I don't know. I think it's, part of me is just suck it up.
well, yeah, we grew up here. We're used to it. It's
Well, yeah,
So
we can
what?
suck it up.
we're a little entitled with our consistent lack of oxygen.
but yeah, it's going to be an interesting stretch for the Nuggets going up into the All-Star break. And
When is the All-Star break?
February 16th, I think, is the Friday.
So does that mark the halfway point in the season? 3/4?
So we have
Where are
already
we, big picture?
we've already played half the games of the season.
Okay.
There's 82 games in the season. We are 27 and 12, 28 and 12.
30 and 14.
Wow.
Oh, nice. I haven't looked at it.
So
in a couple days.
44
So
games.
we're 44 games. So we're 3 games past
The
halfway
halfway
mark. So by the time the All-Star break comes around, we'll probably be, I want to say 8 or 9 games. So I would say it's probably a 2/3 mark.
which Nuggets will be a part of the All-Star
So
game?
All-Star voting is still going on. If you guys
Okay.
are listening,
Who
vote,
should
vote,
people
vote.
vote for?
We got 13 games till
Realistically,
All-Star break.
Yeah,
like
like,
Jamal
who to
Murray
vote
and
beside
Nikola
Murray?
Jokic.
Okay.
Those are the two front runners for the Nuggets. And then we got some news today that the Nuggets could start easing in Isaiah Thomas sometime in February. So that tells me probably after the All-Star break.
Logically,
just to like,
that would make the most
let's
sense.
give them, an extra week or two, unless we end up playing like the Bulls or the Cavs again. I definitely wouldn't expect to see IT back until after the All-Star break. But that's encouraging because he's had significant amount of time to rest up and make sure that after his hip surgery, everything is working proper. Obviously, he's a professional athlete, so he's still probably been working on, strength training and conditioning just on an individual basis. So he hasn't been cleared for 5-on-5 drills yet, but once we start seeing some, clips coming out of Denver showing him like running on the court, shooting some balls with other players on the court, that's going to be really encouraging. And I definitely think he can provide an extra boost coming off the bench, even if it is with some of our I don't want to call them lesser talents because our backups are really good. But I
We
could
could go
I
way
could
small,
see
though.
IT. Yeah, if we want to really run people into the ground and not worry about getting blocked or anything, we could run Isaiah Thomas, Malik Beasley,
Morris.
Oh, that was way small ball.
Way small
I was
ball.
thinking like throw Wancho in there.
Wancho at the 4,
just for some size.
Plumlee
Yeah.
at 5,
Or Lyles.
or Lyles.
Like Lyles at the 4 and Wancho at the 5. That would be small ball.
Yeah.
Small enough. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next month, and hopefully we can see some Jokic in the skills competition. I think that'd be really
That'd be
fun to watch.
so sweet.
That would be really fun. Well, the Nuggets are still definitely the team in Colorado to watch. The Avs.
They lost to the Senators.
The Avs
know.
are maddening right now. They just had their 5-game road trip in Canada and only managed to pull out 1 win.
Yeah,
It's
Lissa's back,
rough.
so I'm gonna censor myself. But the Avs still look like poop.
They do. I
Yeah.
heard you swore a lot while I was gone.
I just said
That
the
what?
other word for poop.
CHIT.
a few
Oh,
times.
that's not that bad.
CHIT.
You're fine.
Maybe like 2 times.
3 times right in a
3
row,
times.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It was all within like a 10-minute segment.
Just get it out.
Condensed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So much anger.
I mean, they've been absolutely maddening for starting so hot and truly looking like they had turned a corner and this was going to be a pretty epic season. They have just managed to crumble.
Yeah, and the last 3 games against the Canadians, the Maple Leafs, and the Senators, Varley's actually, I thought he looked pretty decent. Like, he started those last 3 games, and we were harping on the goaltending last week.
Yeah.
And he actually looked pretty good. This time, I think it was the rest of the team that looked
Interesting.
awful.
That's so
Well,
disheartening. So,
know.
like, at any given time, any part of the team can fall apart and suck.
Yeah.
That's not reassuring.
Not no.
Like, he made some really good saves against the Canadians and against the Maple Leafs. Well, and against the Senators. It's just, there were a lot of wide open shots for the other team to make. So this week, it's the defense. There's been a lot of defensive breakdowns.
It sounds like the long Canadian road trip probably got to
I think so.
not just the heads but the bodies of the offensive lines.
One, in the Senators game, that was the 3rd game in 5 days that Varley had started. Like, he looked great in the first period. But in the second and the third period, like, he just looked slow. So I think maybe starting him 3 games in a row probably wasn't the best idea. I think the Avs may have been able to win that game if he wasn't playing that night.
Who's fresh?
Yeah. Because, I mean, he's like 30, 31 years old. He's slowing down, for sure. And he's a goalie that relies on his body.
Right.
Like, he's constantly moving. He slides really well. He can follow the puck really well. But
Just not as athletic as he used to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
That agility is fading.
And he relies on his body so much that I think it's breaking down a little bit.
When we were sitting at the top of the division for multiple consecutive weeks early in the season, and now we've dropped to third, which doesn't sound too bad, but when you look at the points...
We were in fourth last week, so we've actually moved up in the standings.
Well, so here's
the Stars have gone on a
the
4-game
thing.
losing streak.
The Jets are leading the division with 64 points. The Predators are not far behind with 60. And then there's a massive drop-off where both the Avalanche and the Stars have 50 points and the Wild have 49.
Yeah,
So essentially, we're tied, quote-unquote, for third. But it's a long drop from second to those third, fourth, fifth spots that are all pretty much tied.
And we currently have, I think it's the 5th playoff spot. The Wild have the 8th playoff spot, and we're 1 point ahead.
Ooh.
And we play them in a few days.
Yeah,
So
because
it's like we could easily change positions with them.
I mean, we got the Kings, which
We've got the Kings. They're last in
They're
their
not-
division.
yeah.
They have 42 points.
They're a dumpster fire.
But then the Predators,
Then the Predators,
and
who
then the Wild.
that
That's
game
gonna
with the
be-
Wild's gonna be feisty.
Yeah.
It better be.
They're probably our biggest rival.
We better show up mad to that game. And then we got the Canucks and the Blue Jackets. So we do have 5
And
games
it's-
at home, which
yeah.
I'm hoping
Well, at least
lends
get 3 or
itself
4 out of there.
right, gets us some sort of momentum because there's time to correct and kind of sure our footing.
One we
But-
have our next 3 games are the next week, and then we have the All-Star break, and then our bye week.
Oh yeah,
So the
that's
next
right.
3 games are going to be very critical as far as like how we're going to go into our break, because we won't play for like 8 or 9 days
Dang.
with the All-Star break and
Yeah.
our bye week. So
yeah,
this
we'll
is
play
either
Saturday,
a good time
Monday,
to
Wednesday, and then won't play until February 2nd.
Yeah.
They gotta
And
put
that
it on the
time
hammer
off
for the
is
last.
either like I feel like time off is either toxic or magic. Like there's no in between. It either brings the team back really, really refocused and energized, or even more wonky and discombobulated than they were before
You
having
said
a break.
it's 9 days?
Something like that.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I think you take
23rd
3
to the
days
2nd.
off.
I was just
for-
going to say, after reading that report today,
Yeah,
that
9 days.
the best length of time for vacation is 8 days. So this sounds like a great opportunity for the Avs to take advantage of the optimal vacation time.
If they can go on a 3-game winning streak, then they've earned it.
They've
If
earned
not,
it, yeah.
then
If not,
they need
yeah.
to practice every day.
maybe go 2-1.
3 games.
Hey, I'm not
3
saying
games,
that
yeah,
these
3
dudes are
games.
going down to like
2-1 at worst.
Cancun and partying it up. I'm just saying it's nice to not have to play your hardest for a couple games each week, and you can let your body recuperate a little bit.
And
Obviously,
your
they're
mind
still
too.
gonna-
You know, the mental and emotional side of being a professional athlete.
Yeah, maybe
I
I'll go to
think is
you want to go to
under
Family Sports, see if they're on the golf course.
They need to go do some like laser tag, bowling, team activities that are low pressure, get some mojo back, some camaraderie. Like they just don't seem like they're
Go-karting.
connected or on the same page.
Yeah, they need. I don't know if it's that they're not connected. It just seems like they're just getting beat. Like they're just playing.
It's a lot harder to beat a group of individuals than a unified team.
Yeah. Well, the top line, have not been doing well lately. And when they don't do well, then the Avs don't do well.
Right. They set the tone for sure.
Oh, yeah. So even though Varley's looked pretty good lately, like if nobody's scoring goals, then you can't
And
win
I
a
feel
game.
like that's something that has to change. If the entire success and failure rests on 3 or 4 individual members of the team, you're doomed to fail. Like
So I think
Especially
they
in
need to make
in
a
a
trade.
long season.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
in like if you're playing football, like you can rely
You
on
really
individual
can.
players.
You can get away with that.
There's only 16 games, but when you're talking about like
82
baseball,
games.
hockey, basketball, those are all games where it's like you need a team. And
Everyone has to be able to pick up the slack at some point.
Yeah.
And when that falls to you, when it's your turn to be the person or the unit that goes, okay, now you can rally behind me, rally behind us. And we don't have that.
Unless McKinnon can put up like 300 points in a season.
Which would be amazing. I think the record is like 195 or something like that.
But I'm saying, like,
yeah, right.
You need to have that support from your secondary and tertiary lines, but it definitely starts with who's on the ice at the start of the game.
Yep.
Like you said, Alyssa, you got to set the tone. You got to become leaders to help bring your team to a level of competing for 2 points instead of no points.
Oh yeah. Well, and they put Landeskog on the second line for a while, just try to boost that second line.
I feel like
since he's the
that's
captain,
just like
but
an
it's like
attempted
that didn't work at all.
redistribution of wealth.
Yeah,
Chemistry went negative then.
exactly. 'Cause then it hurt the
I could
first
have
line.
told you that was going to backfire.
When a lot of people don't realize, like, a lot of hockey fans definitely realize, but anybody that's tuning in as like a fresh hockey fan, there's a lot more talking on the ice than people realize. And so I think, like, you talk about team chemistry, but out of all the sports, I think team chemistry is most important within hockey. If you have two dudes that just don't like each other, like, it's toxic for a line. And when you're not moving the puck, when you're not communicating, like, that can be the entire difference in a game.
Make or break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like it makes sense to move your captain to the secondary line. He should be that type of person to maintain communication or at least encourage the proper team play to bring that extra bump. But
It
But
takes
the impact-
a really
the
special
impact wasn't
person,
noticeable.
though.
But the
Like,
impact that it had on the
Landy
first
is-
line was so major
Right.
that it's not like he
Yeah.
wasn't doing his job on the second line. It hurt the first line so much
Right.
that it didn't
And
work.
that's hard when you're the catalyst.
Exactly.
Like, if being moved from the first line leads to such a drastic drop in
production.
production.
That's why I think they need to make a trade for a really good scorer
Just
that can be
something
the leader on the second line.
Fresh blood goes a long way to rejuvenating a team that's in a slump.
So is there anyone available that's maybe not on a contending team that might be looking to just get like a plug and play type of player?
Yeah, I mean,
Like
the guy
CJ
that I...
Anderson
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
Rams
Yeah.
right now.
The Blues, right?
Yeah, the guy I mentioned last week, like, he's still the guy that I want us to get, Vladimir Tarasenko. I mean, he's probably the Blues' best player, but they're awful. And he's a sniper. Like, he's not a big defensive player, but he's an amazing scorer.
So like, what would it take, do you think, to get him?
So the Blues need a goalie. So Varley would definitely be part of it. And Connor Timmins is the Avalanche's best prospect.
Okay.
So he would probably have to be part of it as well, and maybe even a draft pick.
Cool.
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
But that's if the Avs want to elevate upwards to be
Now.
like,
Yeah.
we're trying to win a Stanley Cup
now.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Because their current team, I think they'll make the playoffs. Getting out of the first round, I don't know. If they got someone like that, I think they can make a deep run in the postseason.
So it all depends on what kind of trajectory that they want to make.
Exactly. And they're a young team just like the Nuggets, so they could just, stay the course, let their young players come up, and hopefully it works out, and they'll be a Stanley Cup contender in a year or two.
Maybe they're like the Nuggets of last year. Go
They
through
could
some
be.
learning curves, ups and downs.
But the Avs
Missed the playoffs
last
by
year.
1 point.
And got
Right?
rocked.
Right?
The Nuggets would have got rocked by the Warriors last year
Oh, yeah.
if they made the playoffs.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
But
So
that
it's
playoff
like-
experience is still very important.
It's
It's
crucial.
invaluable. Yeah. So, Jordan, I'm curious, since the Avs have been in such a slump, what is your perspective on the role coaching has played in that?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure, just because I don't really know Jared Bednar that well.
I feel
I haven't
the exact
studied him that
same
much.
I'm like, I feel like coaching has to be a factor, but I could not explain why or put my finger on it.
He's been the coach for the last 3 years. Like, I think his first year was the 48-point season when they were a complete disaster. and they've improved every year that he's been a head coach. So, I mean, I think he's on the right trajectory, but I just don't really know his style of coaching. Because he doesn't really talk that much, which hockey coaches usually don't. So I don't really
they're
know.
not really known for being the outspoken type.
Well, there's only like 4 or 5 really good head coaches in the NHL. And he's not one of them.
Right now.
But it's like...
Whoa,
fair.
harsh crowd.
All right. So, I mean, it definitely plays into it. It's just, you just don't really hear a lot about how practices go with the NHL. And the NHL is very closed
There's
off.
so much less coverage. That's definitely like having the Avs more on my radar this season, trying to pay more attention to media, articles, things coming out. It's so limited, it's maddening. Like, you try to stay up to date beyond just the games and the stats. There's so little to go off of.
When
It's
I think
very, very, like, hush-hush almost. It's odd.
part of that isn't an issue with how good the Colorado Avalanche are or have been, but the NHL as a whole has
Right.
definitely seen a taper on popularity over the last, I would say, 2 decades. You look into the late 90s and early 2000s.
That's a really good point,
That's
Ed.
where it started to like decline. In the 80s and early 90s, hockey was super popular. A lot of people really enjoyed watching it because it was it was almost like boxing. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that love boxing. It's very violent, and it's still grueling because you have to be able to stand out in the ring for a half an hour. But hockey used to be like that, where it's like you're on the ice, you're skating your hardest, very limited rules. But as time has progressed, there's more and more rules to protect the players, to make sure that they're playing for longer and being safer, which is great. I'm all for player safety, but the NHL definitely needs to find some middle ground to create some more, like a catalyst to create some more interest in,
And
in the
especially,
league
I
as
feel
a
like,
whole.
to bring in a new generation of fans.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like as you go decade by decade, the number of young hockey fans is getting smaller and smaller, which is unfortunate because it's such a great sport.
It's very fun to watch once you understand all the aspects that go into hockey. But that's the other side, is like teaching a 7 or 8-year-old how to communicate with his peers and worry about offsides and the little nuances that hockey, like, it's very important within the hockey's game and sport. And then on the other side, especially with ice hockey in particular, it's very expensive to play.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of parents that don't want to justify dropping, $500 to $700 on one
Minimum.
season.
I mean, it's
And that's
so expensive.
that's just the league fees. That's not your gear. Hockey skates
Your
are expensive.
private
Sticks are expensive.
And it does kind of make me wonder if, and I don't know if there's really any way to curb that cost. I think perhaps it is what it is. But I do feel like there's probably a lot of talent that's missed out on in terms of potential outstanding athletes in the game of hockey because of the price point.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why I didn't play hockey as a kid. 'Cause it
I
was
played
so
roller
expensive.
hockey.
Yeah, me too.
It's cheaper.
But not ice hockey. Yeah,
But
right.
it's different.
so
It's
expensive.
slower, and the puck's lighter. Like, you can do a little
not
bit
as
more.
fast.
It's not as fast. You can't be as aggressive. Like,
Right.
I got
It's definitely a different game.
I got a tripping penalty once because I took a puck away from a girl and she fell down. I just took it from her. She fell down. They called me for tripping. I was really upset.
Taking the puck.
I was like, that's a hockey play.
That's kind of how the NHL has become lately, though. Well, in the Senators game, one of the Avalanche players, I don't remember, slashed. That's my air quotes. One of the Senators player, and it was like a tap on the leg.
That's a legal play.
And the whistle was blown, and the Senators player turned around looking for what the whistle was called on.
thinking
he
it was
didn't-
on him.
He was like, oh, we're not playing
No, he
hockey
turned around
anymore?
trying to find where the penalty was.
Oh.
Because he
But it
was
was
like,
on
wait,
him.
what happened? What happened?
Against,
He was still trying to
against
skate.
him.
He was the
play.
one that
We're
was...
doing air quotes all
Air quotes,
over.
air
Yeah.
quotes.
He was the one that was slashed, and he turned around trying to
Wait,
find
that-
where
that
the
was a
foul
penalty?
happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on me. Oh. Okay, whatever.
Right?
But no, I think the NHL could definitely, like, whether that's providing more opportunities for the youth, kind of like NFL's Play 60.
Yeah.
NFL does a really good job at promoting flag football and just getting kids interested. But that's the other side is, like, it's easy to spend, $30, $40 on cleats or basketball shoes.
Yeah,
and all you have
it's
to do
true.
is go down to your rec center or an open field and just have a couple friends play around with you. It's a lot harder to get ice time
Yes.
and
Yep.
have that practice. Like,
Well,
I
and
tried
that's why I think hockey's so much bigger up north. Because if you have land and
Oh, yeah.
time and are willing to work, you can build yourself an ice rink because it's freezing.
and it's consistently
You can't do that in most of the United
negative
States.
10 degrees Celsius.
Right. Like, you can't make an ice rink on your property or in your backyard in Colorado because it's not
gonna
cold
last.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll be a pool the next day.
exactly. Whereas
Or
if you're
puddle.
up in Minnesota or in Canada and you're willing to work hard and build
Or you have
yourself a rink, you can
By
build
the Great
yourself a
Lakes,
rink.
you have a pond or something that gets
Exactly.
froze
There's
over.
water everywhere. Yep.
Definitely makes sense. But the NHL definitely could do more to increase interest moving forward because
And exposure.
without
Well, and I feel like they're gonna have
all
to
over.
if
Without
they
that,
truly want to stay on the Texas time.
they're gonna phase out, and then we're gonna see a whole lot more concerts in these arenas instead of hockey.
Well, I mean,
That
one
would
thing,
suck.
kind of stemming back to what you were talking, Gideon, about the last couple decades, I think the 2005 lockout was just
That was the real.
I think
Turning
that was a turning point where people turned away from hockey, and that's when lacrosse started to get really big.
Gosh, that's a good point.
But even
Yeah.
lacrosse has started to tail off over the last couple of years. I mean, even
Yeah.
the NLL has subtracted a
they're
few
fighting,
teams, right?
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, the season for the NLL got delayed this season because negotiations with the Players Association were not going smoothly, and essentially all of the players said, "No, we're not playing until this is resolved." So the NLL season
Good for them.
started about
Yeah.
3 weeks later than originally scheduled. Colorado Mammoth are back in action. We got to get to a game soon.
Yes.
I have not been following them as closely as usual.
Well, the good news is that they will be budget seats, even like on the glass.
They're just it's so affordable and it's so much fun.
Well, and even like we haven't been to an out-of-state game, but Mammoth games usually have, I'd say, 10,000 people,
Which is a pretty
the-
solid
and
showing.
the players make 25,000 a year.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
high end.
But like, lacrosse is much more popular along the East Coast. It's almost like nowadays
very
it
prep
seems like
schooly.
like kind of like
Yeah.
polo. Like, ooh,
Oh,
you play
yeah, that makes
lacrosse,
it sound lame.
but you're also a law student. That's nice. What fraternity
Oh,
are you
you're a
in?
pre-med and a forward.
But lacrosse, like at its roots, is also a very violent sport and
It's
very
so
fun to watch.
fun.
And box league lacrosse, which is indoor lacrosse, kind of condenses everything. And I could definitely see, like, if the NLL goes the wayside, the Colorado Outlaws are definitely going to see a much larger interest, at least from the local community, because people are going to want to get that itch. I know too many of my friends that played lacrosse or currently play lacrosse because it's a fun sport and it's fun to spectate.
And it's similar to hockey in so many ways.
Yeah.
But so much more affordable. Because it's cleats,
Oh yeah,
a stick, grass.
I feel like
And
if
a
the-
$3
if
ball.
the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the NHL took the NLL method of trying to get people there, like, we just want you in our seats. We're going to advertise the hell out of this. We're going to make it affordable. I feel like the NHL would do a lot better. Because
But
even
if they-
when the Avs
like,
were
what if-
terrible,
what if
they
they
were charging
sponsor-
like $120 to sit in the fifth row.
Oh, I have bad news.
Uh-oh.
The Mammoth are 0-3 right now to
Oh,
start
it
the
started.
season.
The season started? Oh, yeah.
0-3.
We knew that.
Bottom of the division. They have not had that bad of a start in forever. Jordan and I were season ticket holders for a few years. And it's definitely the most affordable season ticket option out there, but it's still, dropping a few grand is a few grand. So we didn't do that this year. But that's a sucky start.
Only way to go is up.
But
only way to go is up.
That's right.
So obviously the NHL as an organization, an association, league, whatever you want to call it, they're in it for the money. But
Right.
I think for the long term, if they want to continue making money, they should try sponsoring, let's say, just throwing this out this as an example, what if the NHL sponsored the YMCA? That brings more exposure to YMCA, but then maybe they pick one or two YMCA locations out of each state and say, we're going to build an ice rink. We're going to allow you guys to have basically unlimited ice time, and that would bring so much more people into the YMCA to learn how to, whether it's learning how to skate, learn how to play
That'd be
hockey,
cool.
whatever,
Yeah.
get on the ice. You're going to even see much more people just going out there for figure skating. But at least that will
so
provide...
many ways to make it happen,
Yeah.
to get that exposure and to bring in a new demographic of people to be interested. Just actually doing it. And it's
Nowadays,
up to the
all
league.
these kids want to do is just stay at home on their iPads, watching TV. Like, we need to have as many opportunities for our future generations to get out and speak to one another face to face rather on
right.
FaceTime.
Well, I think the NHL, they need to promote their own sport better.
Oh,
Like, they
absolutely.
just-
They do a pretty lackluster job
It's like
of
if
branding
you go
the entire
go out
league.
and ask the average person, who's LeBron James? They could probably tell
Everyone
you.
knows.
Even
you
if
ask
they don't
them-
even
if you
watch
ask them
basketball.
who's
Yeah.
who's Connor McDavid, they would have no idea what you're talking about, and he's the best.
He's a
NHL
boxer.
player.
Politician.
Right? Yeah, right.
I was going to say, like, my fourth grade teacher.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's the greatest
Who might have
NHL
also been
player
a hockey
right
player.
now. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah, that's a great point, Jordan. Like, they just don't market or brand themselves. I don't know. And I can't tell if it's intentional or not. Like, part of me wonders if
I
it is
think
this
it's like a
kind of
middle
like,
finger to the players.
you think?
I think the league doesn't want to spend money
Oh, yeah.
on...
Because when a player makes
They don't wanna
$6 million
market.
a year, that's like, that's so much money.
Yeah.
You look at the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball, like $6 million a year, that's like nothing.
Yeah.
You're below average.
The NHL's definitely gotten more... I don't want to call it frugal. I'll just call it cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it goes down to marketing, and when you don't have proper marketing, you lose exposure. When you lose exposure, you make less money. When you make less money, your players' contracts are less. And even when a Stanley
Around
Cup
and
comes
around
into
it
your
goes.
town, it doesn't bring as much
Hype.
hype.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're Pittsburgh or some Canadian team, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like fans get really excited to be like, we made it to the Stanley Cup.
Well, and
like,
it's just
look
like,
at LA. Like, Kings fans are far and few
do they
between.
exist?
Yeah, Snoop Dogg.
It just
Yeah.
kind of, I feel like here in Colorado, like, we're a sports town. So if the Avs were to win the Stanley Cup, there are enough casual sports fans
Oh, they
that would
just
go,
get up.
this is
Yeah.
excited. Like, we're going to hop on the bandwagon, we're going to be excited. But that's not most towns.
No.
It would be like, oh, wait,
Well, and
sorry,
we're
who
spoiled
won what?
for
What
not
happened?
being a big market city, but we have every major
have
sports team.
Everything.
Exactly.
Whereas you
We're a
look at
great
Utah,
sports town.
and they have basketball.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the Avs and the Rockies are consistently in the top half of the league in attendance. Even when they're bad, even when they're
Because-
good.
Rockies games are fun to go
Right?
to.
And
but
Avs
they
games are
also
fun to go
have
to.
really cool commercials with, like, cargo doing
Oh,
random
yeah.
stuff.
Right.
Like, they're
Rockies
funny.
do great marketing.
Dinger's a great mascot. Rocky's a great mascot. Even when the Nuggets are bad, people go to games because guess what? Like $15, I can go to a professional sporting event.
Right?
Watch
Fantastic.
this awesome mascot do some gymnastics.
But even with the NHL, like, nosebleed seats are pretty hard to find at $20-$25, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they're
it's
so
like-
pricey. It just seems like they don't want to bring more people into the league. They're happy with the puckheads that
Right.
love hockey.
That is definitely what it seems like. They're like very content to just maintain the current status quo from a fan perspective.
And
And I
now,
don't
like,
get
weird.
that.
But now you're
Neither.
seeing, advertisements on the glass. on televised events.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I hadn't watched televised hockey in a while, and when I first started watching again this year, I was like, why is there a banner on the glass? Like, what's wrong with these people? And then I realized it was a digitally imposed advertisement for television. And it's like the NHL's trying to make money from all these different avenues, and they're not worrying about the actual fans and the players.
Like, simply more proactively reaching out to their individual communities and cities where they're based would go so far so fast.
Yeah. Instead, they're like, Coca-Cola, like $500,000 more this year, and we'll put you guys on half the teams, like your guys' main markets. Like, all right, cool.
And
Sounds
for
good.
Coca-Cola,
Right.
that's like chump change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a minor endorsement contract.
I mean, when your product is that good.
Anyway,
yeah.
we've gone like weirdly down the rabbit hole of marketing.
Right?
But no, like that's an issue that the NHL is experiencing, and if it doesn't get fixed, then the Avs are going to lose fans.
Yeah.
NHL is going to lose fans, and I wouldn't be surprised 10 years from now we would be talking about the NHL like we are talking about the NLL currently.
It could
Yeah,
happen.
I wouldn't either. I would
It
not be
could
surprised
happen.
either. They need to be humbled a little bit, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because they're just set in their own ways.
Well, here's hoping the Nuggets can continue with their incredibly strong season, that the Avs can get out of their slump, that the Broncos sign some more Italian coaches, and that we don't lose any more former Rockies to the freaking Yankees.
Yeah.
It's pretty much everything happening in Colorado sports right now.
The Yankees are the Rockies of the East.
Oh, although, good news, from what I understand, Machado's deal was expected to be around $300 million, kind of setting this benchmark, but it's ended up being for a final deal $175 million.
Oh, no.
However, will he survive? But
How many years?
that sets a good benchmark for
I just
for Nolan,
like
for Nolan's
really good for
potential
him then.
deal, wherever he ends up. And gosh, who's the other guy? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name.
Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper. So ultimately, possibly some good news for the Rockies to actually stay.
Who did Machado sign with?
I can't remember.
100. All right, I gotta look it up. Real quick.
Look it up. They were talking about it on the Fan today. That's the only reason I know it was $175 million.
7
I can't
years.
even wrap my head around
Yeah, 7 year
$175 million.
from the White Sox inaccurate 2 days ago.
Inaccurate.
What's that? So it's wrong?
That means nothing's official.
Okay,
probably.
so these are just speculatory.
Well, the
It sounds like the White Sox have basically locked him in. It's just a matter of
Paperwork.
for how much.
Well, from
Yeah,
what
I
I
was seeing
reading,
like a 7-year offer, 8-year offer.
How much and how long? Probably not even how much.
Probably
it's just
how
how
long.
long. Like, yeah, I agree on $175 million for
But
5 years.
what's the time frame?
well, did you guys know about the whole collusion thing last year?
Collusion.
I think it's kind of a thing. Apparently, there was this story last year that all the owners in baseball were colluding against the players, that like we're not going to sign any high dollar players for more than like $30 million or whatever
Per year.
Yeah, and so these players that are expected to get up to $40 million a year, that are getting only $175 million over 5 or 6 years.
I have a hard
It
time
might
with
be
the use of
collusion.
the
Which is
word
what, I don't know.
only.
30-ish, right?
Still so
Yeah.
much money.
Yeah.
But
I think
Not
there
even
might
like
be
20
I
collusion.
would rather the money be going towards the players than the owners.
I would agree.
Owners
Like,
make a lot of money.
They make so for me going, oh my god, $175 million, that's insane. Then I have to go, wait, how much money is that
Owners
owner
are
of that
still
team
making more.
Blah.
like these contracts that I'm seeing being signed this year, they're a lot lower than I was
I
expecting
just
to
can't
see.
wrap my head. I'm like hoping for like a 3% raise.
Right.
Just come to Colorado, play well, get paid well. Win a World
I'm
Series,
excited for
maybe.
baseball to be back for sure. Anyway,
Right around the corner.
We've gone on for a while. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in, especially if you have hung in there this whole episode. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Please feel free to rate and review us on wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'd love to hear your suggestions, questions, ideas, absolutely any feedback is always appreciated and extremely useful. And we will catch you guys next week.
Toodles.
Latest.
Peace.
Bye.